Well, hello and a very warm welcome to our webinar this morning, where we feature dementia-friendly communities and they're firmly taking centre stage. My name is Alan Crockett and I'm the Director of Evidence and Influencing for the Dementia Programme here at the Life Changes Trust, and I have the pleasure of chairing today's event. This is quite a moment for the Dementia Programme, as the first funding that went out for dementia in 2015 was for dementia-friendly communities, and we have been on quite a journey over the last nearly 7 years. The purpose of today's webinar is to look in more depth at dementia-friendly communities and the difference they make to the lives of people with dementia and unpaid carers. We'll also talk about the important role dementia-friendly communities play in providing post-diagnostic support, their community development approach, and the importance of partnership working from within DFCs as well as other key learning more broadly. It's great to see that so many of the trust-funded dementia-friendly communities, including those people with dementia and unpaid carers, part of them, have joined us this morning. And I'm sure they will be sharing their pearls of wisdom with us on the chat as we go through today's programme. Before we get on with the main event, I have just a few housekeeping points to cover, so bear with me. This webinar is just over 2 hours long, but we do have a 10-minute break scheduled. If you feel you need some extra time away from your screen, that's okay. Please feel free to do so. We're recording this webinar and it will be on the Life Changes Trust website very soon, so you can catch up if you miss anything. We will email everyone with a link when this is available. Later in the webinar, we'll be having a Q&A panel session. If you would like to ask a question of the panel, you can put your questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. And there is also a chat section there too, so please use this if you have any general comments. You will see in the chat function that there is a drop-down menu. This gives you the option to share your comments with the panel or with everyone. It's always really good to share, so please remember to select the with everyone option. So thanks for bearing with me. So now on to today's event. Back in 2015, the Life Changes Trust began funding dementia-friendly communities, or DFCs, and if it's okay, I might switch between the two, so please bear with me. DFCs are places where people with dementia and unpaid carers are included and supported in every aspect of life. Some DFCs are geographical communities related to a specific location, and others are communities of interest that bring people together because they enjoy similar activities, for example, sport, art, walking outdoors, or singing. Dementia-friendly communities also empower people whose lives are affected by dementia, so that they can remain an active part of society, live as independently as possible, and participate in decisions that affect their day-to-day lives. In 2015, we launched phase 1 of our DFC funding, with the aim of supporting a wide variety of geographical dementia-friendly communities and communities of interest, both large and small. In 2018, building and learning from phase 1, specific development funding was then opened to support those who were already in the early stages of starting a community that is dementia-friendly. A variety of dementia-friendly communities have since been funded by the Trust, 40 in total, and each of them put people with lived experience at the centre of developing the community. As a lot of you will know already, with all of our projects, once we have issued funding, the Trust commissions an independent evaluation of the work, and our DFC programme was no exception. In 2019, HammondCare was commissioned to carry out this work, and the report, shared as part of the joining notes today, looks at the extent to which DFCs contribute to creating better lives for people living with dementia and for unpaid carers, the delivery of post-diagnostic support within dementia-friendly communities, a community development approach, and partnership working within dementia-friendly communities, as well as how they influence collaboration across other communities, amongst many other things. And so to tell us more about this, we will be hearing later from Julie Christie from HammondCare, who will explore the key learning from the evaluation, as well as join us on the Q&A panel. We'll also take a look at some of our communities in action. We'll hear from St Andrew's Dementia Friendly Community in Carluke, and we'll also hear from Scottish Ballet and Capital Theatres about their individual communities and the work they have been collaborating on together. But we're starting today with a short animation made by Outside the Box, which very simply describes the impact that dementia-friendly communities have had on people living with dementia and or unpaid carers in their own words. So let's hear what they had to say. Well, many thanks to Outside the Box. I have to say, I have watched that animation a few times now through preparations for the event, and you know, I think today it really has got me. I think it's just so powerful to see people's experiences shown in that way and highlighted in that way, and so important for us to kick off this event with the people who have been involved in these communities. So many thanks to everyone whose words were included in those quotes. So very powerful, and really demonstrates the real essence of DFCs and what they are really continuing to achieve. So thank you, everybody. And thanks again to Outside the Box to do a marvellous job. So I'm now going to shift the focus a wee bit, probably not as light-hearted, so I'm feeling a bit guilty about that. But anyway, I'm going to talk to you a bit about dementia-friendly communities and how the evidence we are generating at the Trust can make a real difference to policy and practice in Scotland. So if you bear with me, I am just going to move my scripts across. There we go. Okay, so Scottish dementia-friendly communities are about enabling people with the foundation of their work about building strong, lasting relationships and making rights real for people with dementia and their families. It is our hope at the Trust that the evidence we have gathered from dementia-friendly communities and from the independent evaluation being shared today will shape thinking on dementia-friendly communities for a fourth national dementia strategy and, more importantly, for local dementia strategies. Since April 2015, 40 dementia-friendly communities have been funded across Scotland by the Trust, with over £8.5 million invested. Dementia-friendly communities have directly benefited 12,374 people with dementia and 4,471 unpaid carers. This community-led support is not currently counted locally by IJBs or nationally by Scottish Government when data is gathered against targets. With approximately 90,000 people estimated to be living with dementia in Scotland, the amount of people DFCs have benefited so far is an important factor that needs to be considered in looking at the complete picture of dementia support across Scotland. The Trust places high importance on evaluation, with all projects funded by the Trust completing regular self-evaluation reports during the lifetime of their grant. We have published a number of learning reports from self-evaluation by our projects, which can be found on our website, and you'll see the images of the 3 reports there at the bottom of the slide, as well as the image of the HammondCare report. As I mentioned in my introduction, in 2019, the Trust commissioned HammondCare to undertake an independent evaluation of dementia-friendly communities funded by the Trust. This evaluation took place over a 2-year period, with the key findings from this being presented at today's event by Julie. The independent evaluation and self-evaluation data gathered by projects since 2015 provides a solid and strong evidence base on the impact of dementia-friendly communities funded by the Trust in Scotland and how they are creating better lives for people with dementia and for unpaid carers. Being part of a dementia-friendly community leads to a sense of living a better life with potential. It is more than just receiving support. Scotland has good policy, we know that, but what we continue to hear from people with dementia, unpaid carers, and also those staff and volunteers who support them is about the policy practice gap. The National Performance Framework is for all of Scotland, and to help achieve its aims, it has set out a set of national outcomes that looks towards the kind of Scotland that it intends to create. One of these outcomes focuses on community, and it says, we live in communities that are inclusive, empowered, resilient and safe. The approach by dementia-friendly communities and the impact they have on the lives of people with dementia and unpaid carers and the wider community embodies this income, so needs considered. Scotland's national dementia strategies in 2010 and 2013 focused on timely diagnosis, better care and treatment, improving post-diagnostic support and strengthening integrated and person-centred support. Scotland's third dementia strategy in 2017 contained a commitment then to dementia-friendly communities, but this was in reality a commitment focused on promoting and supporting increased participation in befriending. Befriending is not the same as a dementia-friendly community, although in some areas may be an element of one. Whilst we have strategy, and I've had this now in Scotland for the last 11 years, what is needed to improve the policy practice gap is a truly integrated local approach to the support of people with dementia, which measures and invests in the combined contribution of health, social care and other agencies such as housing and the charitable community-led sector. This would then allow us to properly assess and secure high quality support for people living with dementia and for unpaid carers in each integration joint board. A collaborative approach is needed now more than ever. We know that there will be many more people having benefited indirectly from the Trust's investments. For example, carers who receive some respite when the person they care for is occupied in an activity, or professionals who put into practice what they have learned from the evaluation of the work funded by the Trust. There are other organisations not funded by the Life Changes Trust providing similar support for people with dementia and unpaid carers across Scotland. None of this, however, is currently recognised as part of the bigger story about dementia in Scotland. This is now beginning to shift, but much more is needed. More recently, we have all faced the challenges of COVID, with people with dementia and unpaid carers disproportionately affected by the restrictions posed and their effects. A policy response to the pandemic has led to a new dementia and COVID-19 action plan, with a fourth dementia strategy on hold. Commitment 11 of the plan explicitly mentions dementia-enabled communities. A lot of work has taken place already, and it's been really good to see a collaborative approach so far by Scottish Government in relation to the plan and its delivery, and to witness people with dementia, unpaid carers and stakeholders from the Shetland Islands to Dumfries and Galloway be involved. There is much more to do, however, but the work so far has involved wider engagement, responsive to the different needs of those involved, whilst recognising individual skills and experience. At the Trust, we look forward to supporting the outcomes of this work through the community subgroup, as well as continuing to influence other commitments in the plan. Since the first dementia strategy in 2010, the dementia landscape has changed significantly, with a wide range of communities taking place, with a wide range of work, in communities taking place the length and breadth of Scotland. Alongside this, a growing network of dementia activists, people with dementia and unpaid carers, taking more control and driving forward the importance of their voice and involvement in policy and practice that affects their lives. Only a few weeks ago in Dundee, we saw the first conference by people with dementia for people with dementia, changing the narrative and what can be achieved with people with dementia leading the way rather than being invited in. The most recent post-diagnostic support figures published from the local delivery plan standards for 2018-2019 remain a concern, with around 8,000 people estimated to be newly diagnosed with dementia being referred for formal post-diagnostic support via a link worker, meaning over 10,000 were not. Yet, whilst it's important to consider these figures in the context of how data is gathered at the moment, even with this caveat, it is far from accurate to say that these figures paint the complete picture of the support provided to people in Scotland after a diagnosis of dementia. Support that should help them live as full a life as possible for as long as possible. Alongside this formal policy-led offer of support are many other forms of support, such as dementia-friendly communities. Community-led support provides effective, long-term, relatively low-cost options that continue far beyond the first year, but today is not currently recognised as post-diagnostic support. They often provide easier pathways to support because that support is accessed through a familiar interest, a trusted organisation, or a known community venue. There is increasing evidence that community-led work is complementing policy-led offers of support, or in some cases filling the gap where the formal offer has not been made, accepted, or is available. The evidence points to the need to reconsider post-diagnostic support in terms that are broader than the Scottish Government's commitment to at least 1 year's support after diagnosis. The report by HammondCare, which you will hear about in a wee minute, is a strong example of this evidence, as are the testimonies of the many of the 12,374 people with dementia and 4,471 unpaid carers who have directly benefited from the support offered by dementia-friendly communities in Scotland since 2015. We know from many people with dementia and carers that traditional post-diagnostic support mostly stalled during COVID-19, as did diagnosis. Trust-funded projects, however, and many others demonstrated the effectiveness of voluntary organisations and local communities in their response to COVID-19, continuing to support people with dementia and unpaid carers in their communities, whether of place or of interest, whether independently or in collaboration with others in the voluntary and statutory sector. The power of this response and what is taking place locally across Scotland is surely an opportunity to be built on. We have the opportunity to look at these key policy areas again with fresh eyes, build on what is working well, and more importantly, respond to what people with dementia and unpaid carers tell us is important to them to live the life they want to. Whilst today's event is about dementia-friendly communities, it would be remiss of me not to mention a little about meeting centres in Scotland. The Trust has monitored the early development of meeting centres in the UK and saw it as a natural development for many of the dementia-friendly communities we funded. In February 2020, the Trust provided funding for Kerry Connections to support its role in strategic work developing around meeting centres in Scotland. Since that time, a Scottish meeting centres network has developed with 14 members under the leadership of Kerry Connections CEO Graham Galloway. Despite the restrictions imposed due to COVID-19, this group have continued to meet virtually to share learning from their own communities and to continue to contribute to the wider strategic work informing meeting centres across Scotland. Part of this learning has been to look at how the network improves its engagement with people with dementia and unpaid carers. To that end, Graham, Network Chair, has organised a meeting centre summit exclusively for people with lived experience. This will take place on the 6th of December at Kerry Connections in their meeting centre in Kirriemuir. And I know a few of you who have joined us today for this webinar are attending. Meeting centres are about partnership working, sharing of learning and active mentoring relationships. They have the potential to provide a deeper infrastructure through which local government funding, money from funders and money from individuals can combine to create a wide range of dementia-friendly communities across Scotland that offer highly localised meeting centres. Meeting centres and dementia-friendly communities together can provide a very strong platform from which to deliver a whole range of post-diagnostic support. If you want to know more about meeting centres, please take a look at the Worcester University website, who hosts the UK network, as well as looking at the Kerry Connections website, who are Scotland's first meeting centre. I also think Shirley Evans from the UK Meeting Centre Network has joined us today, and I know Graham Galloway is on the call too. The Trust will continue to influence dementia policy and practice, supported by our strong evidence base, and very soon we'll fully hand this over to our national, regional and local legacy partners. Our legacy lies also in the 295 projects we have funded at the Trust for the Dementia Programme, in particular the 40 dementia-friendly communities we shine a light on today, but more importantly in the people with dementia and unpaid carers who have been with us as beneficiaries, advisors, activists and agents of change. So enough from me. I am now going to hand over to the next part of our event. So I'm just switching my script again, something a wee bit lighter. So I think it's now time we hear from a dementia-friendly community. St Andrew's Church is based in Carluke, and we wanted to know what their community looked like and felt like, and really what impact it was having on people living with dementia and also unpaid carers. So we asked Helen Jameson, who's the Minister of St Andrew's Church, Carol Topper, who has a diagnosis of dementia, and her husband Malcolm, and you may hear their parakeet Bruce in the background. So here's what they had to say. Over to you.
I'm Helen Jameson. I'm the Minister of St Andrew's Church of Scotland in Carluke, and since 2012 we've offered support to people living with dementia and their carers, and we've developed to offer a whole variety of activities, and we work in partnership with a lot of different organisations, including things like the Haven and Playlist for Life and Hard for Art. I'm joined now by Carol and Malcolm, who come along to the drop-in support at St Andrew's. Carol and Malcolm, why did you come to the drop-in?
We came to the drop-in through the Haven at the 4th. Malcolm will tell you what that is.
The Haven is a centre for people with lifelong illnesses, and they introduced us to St Andrews, and from that day on we never looked back.
Totally true.
What impact has coming to the drop-in? What impact has that had in your lives?
Well, when I was told that I had dementia, that was me. Oh my God, I'm dying. And I wasn't wanting to speak to anybody. I wasn't wanting to do anything. I wasn't wanting to go anywhere. And the lady for the Haven was going to be at the dementia club that day, and she says, please come along. So we went, and I stood at the doors, and I was like, oh my God, look at all these people. And I was backing off and saying, right, Malcolm, home, home. And somebody came and got me at the door. And how glad am I? Because my life has totally changed. I absolutely love my dementia group, and I've got new friends, and you can talk to Helen and any of her helpers about anything, and I absolutely love it.
Our circle of friends has increased tenfold since joining the club, and as Carol said, we just love coming along. It's such a happy place to go to.
That's great, that's great. Carol, one of our high school volunteers that we had with us for a wee while, sharing at the drop-in, had trained with us as a music detective with Playlist for Life, and they helped you put together your playlist. I know you've got a whole lot of things on your playlist. You might want to tell us maybe one of the songs and tell us a wee bit about why that work done by Playlist for Life is so important.
Jacob helped me with my playlist, and he helped me understand it, because at first I was just picking songs that I liked, but it's you have to pick songs that actually mean something to your life.
Right.
And one of the songs that I picked on my playlist was Tom Jones, It's Not Unusual, and I picked that because my darling Malcolm took me to see Tom Jones, and where did we go?
Kelvin Grove Bandstand.
Kelvin Grove Bandstand, and I was right next to the stage, and it was absolutely brilliant. And I've wrote, to go with my playlist, I've wrote stories to go with the songs, so that when I get worse, my family knows the stories that goes with the songs. So I've done an extra bit, but it's absolutely wonderful, and I play my playlist if I'm sad or just any day. I can put my playlist on and I'm singing my wee heart out, and it just makes you so happy.
That's wonderful. That's great, Carol. What a wonderful thing to be able to do, and brings back special memories for you and helps you remember the things that have been really special to you as well. That's great. I know that you also come along to Heart for Art, which St Andrews have funded some partnership work along with Crossreach, which is the Social Care Council of the Church of Scotland. But we offer a weekly Heart for Art session, and you've come along to Heart for Art. Would you like to show us one of your paintings? That's amazing. Carol, can you tell us a wee bit why Heart for Art's really special? Did you ever paint before, and how does their painting help you?
I have never painted in my life apart from emulsion in the nose. And they had a, what do you call that thing where you show your pictures?
An exhibition.
Aye, one of them. They had an exhibition in the church, and the people were saying to me, oh, Carol, you should go to that, you should go to that. And I said, there's absolutely no way I'm going to that, because I can't. The paintings were absolutely amazing. Anyway, they talked me into going, and oh my God, I love it. On a Thursday, I'm up, I've got my shower, I'm first in the door, and morning! I've got all my paint sauce set out, and oh, it's absolutely brilliant. I just go into my own wee world, and you just focus on your painting, and it just makes you so happy, relaxed. The helpers are absolutely marvellous, and the teacher, what's my teacher's name? Maureen. She has got the patience of a saint, honest to goodness, and honestly, it's absolutely amazing, and I cannot believe the things that I'm painting. I like doing flowers. I do flowers all the time, and I just can't believe what I'm painting. I just totally love it, and I do my painting at home now too.
Yep.
So it's absolutely wonderful.
And it's been good because that's been one of the things that we've been able to offer still during lockdown. We've done a bit of one-to-one for that, haven't you? And you've taken part in that, Carol, and done some work at home and some silk painting too.
Yeah, I do my flowers with acrylics, but I've been introduced to silk painting, and that's absolutely wonderful as well. I really like that. It's a wee change for the acrylics.
That's lovely. Yeah, that's great. And you've shown us some wonderful paintings, Carol. You've just done amazing things, so it's been lovely. Yeah. Thanks very much for sharing with us about some of the things that are really important to you and to Malcolm as well. That's great. Thanks very much for that, Carol and Malcolm.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Many thanks to Helen, and especially to Carol and Malcolm. And Carol, I mean, the love just shines out of her description of all the different things that she's involved in. You can just see how much joy she gets out of that, but also how proud she is of what she's achieved as well. So it's just absolutely fantastic to see. And I have to mention again, Bruce, the parakeet in the background. Bruce is needing his own show, I think. So we'll maybe need to have a word with Carol and Malcolm about that. Both Carol and Malcolm will be joining us later on for the Q&A session. So if you have got any questions in particular about their experiences that they've shared, please post them in the chat, the Q&A section, at the bottom of your screen. Now we're going to turn things a wee bit again, and we're now going to look a bit more in depth at the evaluation by HammondCare. They produced a really good report. You have it in your joining notes ahead of today. They've also produced 2 summary reports that brings together the wealth of learning about dementia-friendly communities funded by the Trust. The evaluation looked at the extent to which dementia-friendly communities contributed to creating better lives for people with dementia and for unpaid carers, the role in providing post-diagnostic support within communities, and how they have influenced policy and decision-making. Julie Christie from HammondCare was part of the evaluation team, so I'm now going to hand over to her to tell us a bit more.
Hello, my name is Dr. Julie Christie, and I was the Principal Investigator for HammondCare on the evaluation of the Life Changes Trust funded dementia-friendly communities in Scotland. That's a big name, but it was a big programme, and over the life of the evaluation we worked with 40 communities, lots of people within those communities, heard lots of great stories and heard about really important work, and saw for ourselves the power of relationships and people with purpose coming together. So what we're going to do now is go through the presentation, try and talk about the findings, but only very briefly, because we've produced 3 reports that tell different stories of the evaluation, and we also have an animation to show you, which we hope illustrates what's important to people living with dementia, unpaid carers, and everyone else that's involved in dementia-friendly communities, and makes them happen. Thank you.
In this evaluation, we were asked to explore if dementia-friendly communities create better lives for people living with dementia and unpaid carers. We also looked at post-diagnostic support within DFCs, the community development approach, partnership working, barriers and challenges, and issues of sustainability. This work started in the summer of 2019 and concluded this year in the spring of 2021. And of course, we had the context of COVID-19 during the period of the evaluation. The work was supported by a wonderful programme advisory group, and you can find out more about the research team and the members of the programme advisory group, their areas of expertise and interest, in the evaluation report. We were very aware that we were working across Scotland with a diverse range of communities, and that DFCs were busy places with busy people. We also knew that a lot of self-evaluation work had been produced, and so we wanted to harness that expertise and be respectful of everyone's time and outputs to date. The issue of the right support for people with dementia and unpaid carers is extremely important, and this programme of work represents a sizeable investment by the Life Changes Trust. We therefore wanted to get the evaluation right. We decided we would work alongside people with dementia, unpaid carers and other dementia-friendly community members to develop the evaluation framework. And we did this through a series of focus groups. We used a method called framework analysis to analyse information from the dementia-friendly community's own self-evaluation reports. We did this by co-producing codes to look at the reports, and as you'll see in this slide, we used building blocks. We literally wrote the words and the themes that were important to everybody who attended, and we built a story using building blocks. We then took that story back to the self-evaluation reports and interrogated them using these themes to see what would emerge. We then returned to the DFCs to explore what we had found. Due to the pandemic, however, these sessions then had to be held online, and we held online focus groups, had small group discussions, or met with people one-on-one online. We then revisited the reports and identified a set of overarching themes. Alongside this, we completed 2 social return on investment studies, one with a geographical community, Dementia Orkney, and one with a community of interest, Badenoch Shinty Memories. This approach asks the people involved what changes they experience because of their involvement with the DFC. The social return on investment method makes it possible to measure this change and place a financial value on things that don't usually have this. Things like happiness, a sense of well-being, a sense of security. This then helps us to visualise the whole benefits of a programme and not just the practical or material things. We then compared the findings from our framework analysis work and the social return on investment studies to create the whole picture of the impact of dementia-friendly communities, and let us return to the questions that were originally asked. We have set out all of this work in our 3 linked reports: a main evaluation report, stories from the evaluation, and a separate social return on investment case studies report. We have also produced an animation which we will be delighted to share with you at the end of this presentation. DFCs are places that foster supportive, aspirational, practical and meaningful relationships. They are both nurturing and influencing. DFCs are learning and cooperative places and spaces, building resilience for members and the DFC as a whole. They create added value and resources and have the potential for growth. We have created a dementia-friendly communities model which helps us to visualise these findings. Dementia-friendly communities create better lives for people with dementia and unpaid carers. Living again, life again means everything. Fulfilling my potential. I have choices. My life and my choices are valued and valid. I have meaningful relationships with others. DFCs provide post-diagnostic support in an organic way, in partnership with others and with the following in mind: living again, fulfilling my potential, choices. They don't refer to points in time, such as short-term or long-term support, or stages of dementia. They simply see the person and the family. Dementia-friendly communities have influence, and they influence policy at a local and a national level in Scotland. Post-diagnostic support options can be influenced by this amplification of individual voices in a focused way. Dementia-friendly communities exist in the real world and experience challenges. We found themes of challenges included time and foundations, staff and volunteers, partnerships and expectations, geography, issues to do with the environment and buildings, transport and weather, funding and sustainability, and of course COVID-19. But there were also issues engaging with people with dementia and unpaid carers, targeting support in the places where dementia-friendly communities felt they were needed, and working out how to reach people and how to harness support. The evaluation report covers these challenges in detail, but it also covers the ways in which DFCs overcame the problems and barriers that arose. DFCs can plan for challenges and draw on a wide range of resources, including other dementia-friendly communities and other community groups. Learning and collaboration are essential skills in overcoming challenges. This word cloud reflects these challenges and how often they appeared across the evaluation as an issue, a barrier or a problem. But we also have lots of stories of solutions too. Dementia-friendly communities contribute positive social value that is greater than the cost of the original investment. They do this across multiple stakeholders, focused on what is important to each stakeholder. Everyone that we spoke with identified the key benefits to them, the impact on their lives, and why this was important to them. We found that the dementia-friendly communities contributed between £4.83 and £5.16 of social value for every pound of investment. And for example, here we have listed the key benefits that people with dementia identified and the unpaid carers identified. People with dementia felt part of something, had a sense of belonging. They felt connected with other people. They had fun and they enjoyed themselves. And they connected with others, shared stories and experiences through reminiscence. Carers developed supportive relationships with other carers, staff and volunteers. They increased their capacity to cope through peer support, information, training and signposting. They experienced a reduction in feelings of loneliness. They were relieved of feelings of stress or burden. They knew where to go for information, and they had time for their own lives. The key learning points are that impactful, dementia-friendly communities are vibrant spaces made up of lots of different people, groups, ages, views, opinions and interests. They are inclusive and there is a space for everyone. People living with dementia and unpaid carers make dementia-friendly communities happen. They are not simply recipients of support. The act of giving support and having purpose is as important as receiving support in a dementia-friendly community. And it brings the community to life as a responsive, reciprocal system. Simply, it's a way of being as well as a recognisable place or space. And these communities are not static, they change over time. There is no time limit to membership of a dementia-friendly community, and roles can change over time. Dementia-friendly communities harness skills, knowledge, time, relationships and connections. They make use of everyone's potential and the potential of the dementia-friendly community as a whole. This is vital for growth and sustainability. DFCs bring about real change and deliver practical and substantial support as part of Scotland's ambitions for post-diagnostic support and personalised community-based support. As such, they should be recognised as a model for delivering co-produced health and social care, and opportunities found to embed this in policy and practice using the learning from this evaluation. DFCs have a role in supporting people with dementia and unpaid carers as part of COVID-19 recovery planning. For a full list of learning points and recommendations, please refer to the evaluation reports. This evaluation has found many examples of the positive impact of dementia-friendly communities in the lives of people with dementia and unpaid carers. Communities come in different shapes and sizes, delivering a range of diverse services and support networks across Scotland. They contribute to better lives for people living with dementia and unpaid carers. They can deliver post-diagnostic support and create opportunities for influencing local and national policies through partnerships and direct political activity. They deliver added value to the communities they serve. We have used social return on investment analysis to explore this in some detail, bringing to life the community development which makes these projects so unique and diverse. Challenges are part of life and a daily part of the DFC experience. However, this evaluation has shown that so too is the experience of overcoming challenges. Successful DFCs are resilient. They expect challenges and obstacles, and they learn from these experiences and from each other. It has been a privilege for the HammondCare evaluation team to have been involved in this work. The volume of information is a credit to dementia-friendly communities, the range of work that they do, the people that they reach, and their impact. However, we want this story to be shared and to be as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. I'm therefore delighted to share with you the Dementia-Friendly Communities animation. Thank you.
Dementia-friendly communities create better lives for people with dementia and unpaid carers. They have shared values and objectives made real through personal, neighbourhood and community connections. These are strengthened through giving and receiving practical and emotional support and through positive experiences. This includes friendships, building confidence, creating a space to discuss worries and finding time for fun. Dementia-friendly communities reach out to new people, groups and organisations, creating bridges with others to grow, to learn and to share. People living with dementia and unpaid carers make dementia-friendly communities happen. Some are built around a place or area, and some are built around shared interests. For example, hobbies, sports or cultural activities. They're built and shaped by the people in the communities that they serve. We call this a community development approach. Dementia-friendly communities need to be resilient in the face of challenges. This means that members of the community work together to anticipate and respond to challenges. Social capital is essential for this and refers to the presence and the quality of relationships, connections and networks. Impactful dementia-friendly communities are vibrant spaces made up of lots of different people, groups, ages, views, opinions and interests. They're inclusive and there is space for everyone. Sustainable dementia-friendly communities have three common elements. They are living systems, they provide systems for living and they are evolving systems. These elements work together and can be visualised as the dementia-friendly communities model. This provides a focus for activities, values and objectives for dementia-friendly communities now and anchor for future policy and action. A living system is a network where each part of the system interacts with the environment to achieve its objectives. Bonds and relationships are strengthened through shared values and through engaging activities that add positive experiences. These in turn provide the opportunity for new, different or stronger relationships. The community also provides resources to meet the needs of people with dementia and unpaid carers, reducing uncertainty in people's lives. Dementia-friendly communities bring about real change and deliver practical and substantial support as part of Scotland's ambitions for post-diagnostic support and personalised community-based support. People are at the heart of dementia-friendly communities. The places we live in shape us and our experiences, and we in turn shape them. The community exists as a system for living, supporting people to lead a good life which they value and which values them. Dementia-friendly communities provide points of continuity in the face of the uncertainties of life with dementia. They strengthen the message of multiple voices with a shared objective: better care for people living with dementia and unpaid carers. Dementia-friendly communities are constantly working to raise levels of knowledge, rights and understanding in society, a society in which the lives of people with dementia and unpaid carers are embedded. They do this across generations and through outreach to other organisations, including influencing local and national policies. For the system to survive and grow, it must be able to create and connect resources, build, learn and adapt. Dementia-friendly communities respond to the expressed needs and ideas of community members and become more bespoke, creative and impactful communities as a result. They're not static and change over time. There's no time limit to membership of a dementia-friendly community, and roles can change over time. Harnessing skills, knowledge, time, relationships and connections makes use of everyone's potential and the potential of the community. This is vital for growth and sustainability. The three elements work together to create sustainable dementia-friendly communities. Placing this model at the heart of discussions about dementia-friendly communities could help communities to focus on the future whilst delivering reliable and meaningful support in the present. Dementia-friendly communities contribute positive social value. This added value is determined by the things that are most important to the community members themselves. People living with dementia and unpaid carers don't simply receive support. The act of giving support and having purpose is as important as receiving support and brings the community to life as a responsive, reciprocal system. It's a way of being, as well as a recognisable place and/or space.
The powerful story of nurturing and influencing has really come through in this evaluation. The places in which we live help to shape us, and we in turn shape them. So thank you to everyone who took part in the evaluation, for finding space for our small evaluation team amongst your busy lives. Thank you.
Well, there's not much more to say. I think HammondCare have said it all. Such a powerful report. I think one of our panel members this morning described it being written in a very human way. So whilst the data, the numbers are all very important, it's what lies beneath that and the stories behind that. And I think HammondCare have been able to balance that really, really well in the report, and also the summary reports, and that animation then just brings it all to life, in particular the dementia friendly communities model. Huge thanks to Julie and all of the team at HammondCare. They have worked so hard over the last 2 years on this evaluation, and I'm sure you'll agree that the report is very thorough and really provides a great deal of insight and learning into the impact of dementia friendly communities across the Scottish landscape. So thanks again to Julie and the team. So before we hear again from some of our dementia friendly communities, please don't forget to put some of those questions at the bottom in the Q&A section, which is at the bottom of your screen. Again, I see the chat is going. I'm trying to keep an eye on it. There's lots of lovely comments coming through on the different presentations today, so keep that going, because we'll capture all that in terms of some of the post-event learning too. And remember just to share your comments with everyone and not just with panel members. So next we're going to move again back to two of our trust funded dementia friendly communities, and they are Scottish Ballet and Capitol Theatres. Scottish Ballet were funded to run dementia friendly and inclusive dance sessions called Time to Dance. And Capitol Theatres, based in Edinburgh, were funded to create a theatre environment that was welcoming and safe for people with dementia and for their families. It's safe to say that both projects have grown arms and legs since those early applications for funding. So to tell us more about their individual communities and how they have been working together, I'll hand over now to Lisa Sinclair from Scottish Ballet and Dawn Irvine from Capitol Theatres. Thank you.
Hi Lisa, it's lovely to see you.
Hi Dawn, lovely to see you. Really great to see you, and it's looking really lovely where you are as well today.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's a bit yucky outside, but it's gorgeous in this building. It's a privilege to sit in such a bright space. So I know we're going to have a little chat today about our dementia friendly communities, but just before that, if we just take a minute to introduce ourselves. I'm Dawn Irvine from Capitol Theatres. I'm Creative Engagement Manager and Dementia Friendly Projects Lead. We've had a dementia friendly community now at Capitol Theatres for around, this must be about our 6th year now. And we have a whole programme of activities, from very light touch engagement, such as our drop-in cafes, our tea and jam sessions, which are around about regular music making, and some songwriting sessions, to sort of more embedded longer term projects, such as our Zoom with a View project, which is a heritage reminiscence project, and things like our Satellites, which is a performance company. It's Scotland's first performance company for people living with dementia and their loved ones. So we have a whole host of different ways for people to engage, and of course not forgetting all of our dementia friendly performances, which of course we've done with yourselves.
Yeah. Great, lovely. It's amazing work you're doing, really inspiring. My name is Lisa Sinclair, and I'm Scottish Ballet's Senior Dance Health Manager. And our dementia friendly work our journey began in 2017, just after that, and we were successful in getting 3 years funding, dementia friendly communities funding from the Life Changes Trust, and that enabled us to set up a whole new programme of work for Scottish Ballet, which was a real first for us, and it rippled across the whole company, and we made our whole building dementia friendly and welcoming to all people living with dementia and their families. We run weekly classes. Now, normally, when we're not in the middle of a lockdown, our classes would normally run at our studios at Scottish Ballet in Glasgow. and they're a bit of a day out, an event for the whole family. And we regularly have 3 to 4 generations of the same family that will come and enjoy them, which is really wonderful. We have dance classes, we have live music, which is really important for us. And we have social cafes normally before and after. And we get together and we have a cup of tea and a biscuit and a good blather about what we've done in the class, but also what we've got coming up for the rest of the week. We run care home programs across Scotland. So as a national company, we work across Scotland and beyond as well. And we love working in care homes. We do a lot of intergenerational work, projects, classes, workshops in care homes as well. More recently, because of lockdown, we've moved everything online. We've been running on Facebook, we've been running Zoom classes, and we've created a lot of pre-recorded resources, which we've got available now to send out to anybody who would like them, either electronically or through DVDs. And what we're currently working on, which is a new piece of work for us, is a one-to-one resource, which we're currently piloting in some care homes, but that we're working out, we're looking to expand out to hospital settings and for people living at their home as well, that can be done in their beds or at their bedside for people that might want to access our dance and our company work in that way.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And so that's, you kind of answered what was going to really be my first question, but in a similar way, your journey sounds similar to ours in terms of the progression and the areas that you're working in. Obviously, yours is more concentrated on dance, and from our perspective, it's on theatre and performing art. Well, dance is obviously a performing art as well. But so how did that all start for you originally? What was it that sort of initiated Scottish Ballet to want to be a dementia-friendly community?
That's a really good question. And I think you've also touched on where our connections lie as well, that we've got that shared ethos and that performing arts focus as well, which is really beautiful. So for us, we received a phone call actually from a care home locally in Glasgow, which is where we're based. And the manager there spoke to our director of engagement, Catherine Cassidy, and said, I have a gentleman here who I think maybe used to be a professional dancer, because he carries himself so beautifully and he's always dancing around and dancing with and dancing for all the residents and staff. And when she told Catherine this resident's name, because he didn't have any other family or friends that they could find, she was saddened to hear that it was someone who was actually known to the dance community, was known to us. And so we rallied around some support with the independent dance sector, some close contacts, and managed to get a little bit of funding in place for some activities. But we became very aware at that point that there was no dance activity in Glasgow that we could see. There was very little offering there for people living with dementia. And on top of that, through our Regenerate ballet classes for older dancers, so age 60 plus, we had observed that a couple of our participants were showing what we suspected to be very early stages of dementia. And so we worked with their families, with those participants and their families, to try and find ways of making those classes a safe and welcoming and inviting place for them to continue to access. Mm-hmm. So at that point, we did a lot of scoping about, and then we had the opportunity to apply for funding with Life Changes, and that was a significant turning point for us. And that really gave us the space, the trust, and the financial investment as well to really undertake a lot of research, consultation, training, outreach work to in very small and slow and steady stages build up the programme. And we're now in our 4th, 5th year as well.
Again, that sounds like not a dissimilar journey to ourselves, and I have to also say that, you know, with the support that we received from Life Changes Trust, it was transformational in what we've been able to achieve. For us, it was, because we're obviously a venue in the heart of Edinburgh, it was more about, we were realising, with, you know, through our figures and our stats, that there was a certain point where people were dropping off from attending. And so similar to yourself, Lisa, what you mentioned about consultation and conversations with your participants and audiences, a lot of the sort of conversations we were having were around people being diagnosed with a dementia or another sort of life-limiting illness that was no longer able to come and enjoy their sort of cultural experience as they normally would have, or felt comfortable. And so I think at that point, for all of us across the departments, we were quite, well, we were really saddened, as you sort of said as well, to hear that, and also became acutely aware that actually we really needed to do something about that, and that everybody should have the right to continue a cultural experience for as long as they desire. And in a similar way, we were so delighted to have the success with our first application to Life Changes Trust, and it absolutely transformed the way that we've been able to work as an arts organisation, and just, you know, the things we've been able to achieve in terms of our staff becoming aware and our staff being really embedded in that whole ethos and the awareness and the reducing of stigma around dementia and what it takes to make the building enabled and a space enabled, and the way that we speak to people. It's just completely changed everything for us and what we're achieving. Yeah, and
it's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so important, and I think you've touched on so many important points there, and you know, it was again very, very similar, and I know that you were ahead of us in that journey because you'd started before, and so we really, you know, were able to look to you, and also Dan Space, I think, you know, had done some really great work as well. We were able to look at our peers around us and the really great examples of work that they were doing and feel part of that, you know, that we weren't on our own starting out completely, you know, that there was something that we can look to and look towards and connect with as well.
Yeah,
so really
absolutely.
What's happening.
And what you're saying there, Lisa, is something that I've just become so aware of. It is about sharing. It is about not being insular and saying, oh, well, we're a dementia-friendly community and we don't want anyone else to be around us. It is about growing that. That's the whole reason that we exist, is to say, well, this worked for us or this didn't work for us, and here, try this method, or here, try that method, and come in and join us. And so that's something from the perspective of Scottish Ballet and Capitol Theatres has always worked really well for us. You know, we've had numerous conversations, just the pick up of a call to say, I'm thinking about this. Do you think this might be a good idea? Or we've got this dementia-friendly performance. Please, can we have access to, like just even this week, having access to a company rehearsal? Now, that was just a phone call. And it was just about talking and the dialogue, and us both understanding the impact that would have on that person being able to come and draw for an hour. I mean, that had, over the whole, I have to just tell you in this call, over the whole of this weekend, he has went on to take all of the artwork that he created by pen. He's been painting it all weekend. I have so much to show you. And it's about talking, isn't it? It's about us keeping that conversation going. And you know, it's interesting that you're talking about it as well in terms of, you're saying about not sticking rigidly, and absolutely that's entirely how we work now as well. And I mean, for us, what's kind of changed is that when we first obviously received our funding, it felt more prescriptive. You know, it was very much a case of, as it would be often with a funder, we will deliver X, Y, Z. And this is exactly what we will do over whatever given time scale. And actually, that's one of the most interesting things about Life Changes Trust as well, and the way that they work and the way that they understand. It doesn't need to be that prescriptive, because it's got to be responsive in the moment. And actually, to work in that way is the only way that this can happen. You know, because at the very essence of everything that we do, and I'm talking on your behalf here as well, but I know from the way that you work, it's the same. It is about the voices of people who lived the experience. I mean, we literally are cushioning and supporting them to continue, if they have a desire to be creative, if they have a desire to dance, to enjoy theatre, to take part in creativity. It's about us cushioning that and supporting it and saying, oh yeah, we can do that for you. It is that can-do attitude, isn't it? And it's about what people can achieve and not what they can. and keeping that going for as long as somebody is able or wants to.
I think so. Really celebrating. I think what you said there about looking at what people can do and what can be achieved, I think is underpins everything that we do. It's not, it's really looking at an asset-based approach, isn't it? And really celebrating where people are in the moment, in the here and now. And I think that's also a really lovely thing about the performing arts and the live performing arts as well, that it is very much about celebrating that, and it's about bringing people's voices and creativity and expression out to the forefront, and so often that can be forgotten. And actually that's the one thing that people can never take away from us, because it's all ours. It's all ours, and it's always there. That creativity is always there in us, and we just sometimes need a little bit of support to find it again for ourselves in whatever way that is, but it can be enjoyed and celebrated at any point on a person's journey. And I think I think that's got to underpin everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of that is the same way that we work. And I think that's just, you know, us talking to each other, constantly talking to each other, learning from each other, us learning from your dementia-friendly community, you learning from ours, and from the people with lived experience, and sharing what they're saying informs everything that we do all the time. And I think as well, you know, in future, in the way that dementia-friendly communities, it can really impact on post-diagnostic support, and it's about a holistic way of being able to achieve that, isn't it? A dementia-friendly community, it's about a less informal way, and you know, starting from a point of where somebody has an interest or a passion, and then you can support that to grow, and you can support them with other information, and you can bring in other organisations who can support them with whatever that is in an informal space, but a safe and supported environment. And I think that's both what we're trying and will continue to try very hard to achieve, isn't it, Lisa?
Strongly. And having that empowerment, people should feel empowered in all they do. They should be making the choices of what matters to them and what they do. And I think they're great examples of how we can support that to happen. And what I always, you know, anecdotally, some of the information that comes back from our dancers, I would say dancers rather than participants, is we have a company of dancers when we're in the space, and it's really lovely. It's that people quite often build, if they're coming to our studio on a Sunday, for example, they'll maybe go out for a roast dinner after it, or they'll go and do their shopping after it, because the class sets them up for the rest of their day, and it means that they can build in doing things that they might otherwise not want to do, or it might be a bit more of a struggle on that day. And I just love that actually this is not something that has to just stand alone in the studio, that actually the benefits of it can be felt after, beyond, and
peer support naturally, isn't it?
That's really important.
Yeah,
it's got a place in people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the things I was reflecting on as well, is the fact that people are friends now. You know, people that we've watched come into this community, they're part of a close knit now. They see each other outside, they phone each other outside, they check up on each other, they share information, and that is just peer support naturally growing through a shared interest and a shared passion in something, which just seems perfect, doesn't it?
It's lovely. No, that's it. And those things are, you know, it's certainly, they just quite happen quite organically.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's because it's so natural. Yeah. That it just feels right, doesn't it? Yeah. And to see it happening, for us to be able to then take a step back and watch that happen and watch people support each other, it's just the best thing. That's real privilege. Yeah, that's right. You know, you're doing something right when you can see them growing into their own community, that they care for each other. So before I start to get upset and a wee bit emotional, I'm going to just say thanks, Lisa. Thanks so much for chatting through today. And it's really great to speak to you. And I can't wait to have you in our beautiful venue, live in person, for our inclusive performance at Christmas time. How amazing is that? I didn't think it was going to happen.
We cannot wait. Honestly, we are beyond excited. The team is already discussing whether we're going to get our hot chocolate before or after the event. because it's a bit of a ritual for the team, but
as long as I can come, I want to come for this hot chocolate.
We would love that, Dawn. We would love that so much. Yeah, we'll be there with all our Christmas antlers on and Santa hats, and more than ever this year, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can't wait.
Let's make it a good one.
Oh yeah, but it's been lovely to speak to you. So nice to see you.
See you soon.
Great.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.
I agree with Agnes. It makes you so proud to see, the real impact of these communities, and also to see the passion and the enthusiasm from those individuals, both staff and volunteers that are working in those communities, and how for them it's more than a role, it's more than a job, it's very much part of their DNA. So fantastic conversation, Lisa and Dawn. I think it gives a real sense of the importance of dementia-friendly communities working in partnership and learning from each other, because that's a really critical part of their sustainability and growing and involvement moving forward. It's also important that it helps them set out what they achieve to do, and it's also important for them to evolve and adapt to the changes around them, as both Lisa and Dawn said, and also that responsiveness, responding to what their members tell them, is so important and really drives and shapes their work going forward. It's also interesting to hear as well about the history of the projects and how they started, because often we don't talk about that, and that's just usually embedded within an application for funding. So it was nice to hear Lisa's story and also Dawn's story in relation to that. So thank you both. It's now time for a short break. You will see from the programme it's for 10 minutes, so plenty of time to boil the kettle and have a wee stretch. I'm actually quite envious because I'd quite like to be going up to Edinburgh to get a cup of that hot chocolate that Lisa was talking about. I'm definitely going to head up there near Christmas time, maybe talk to Lisa about where she gets it. So when we come back, it's time for our Q&A panel. So do put any comments in the chat section and any questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screens. So enjoy your break, and I will see you in 10 minutes. Thanks. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you managed to get up and stretch your legs a wee bit and get a refill, whether it's a hot cuppa or a cold drink, but I hope you're sitting comfortably, because now it's time for our Q&A session. I think we have everyone. Yes, everybody's present and correct, so thank you. Working smoothly so far. We're in very esteemed company today, as some of our panellists were part of the project advisory group for the evaluation by HammondCare. And I know that HammondCare were really grateful for their input. And you also may recognise two of our panellists from one of the films earlier. I'm not sure if Bruce the parakeet is in the background, but yeah, I'm delighted to see Malcolm and Carol here also. So I'm going to ask all of you to introduce yourselves and just say a little bit about who you are. Julie, we've obviously met you already in the evaluation presentation a wee bit earlier on, but can you just say hello to everybody today?
Hello, hi, Dr. Julie Christie. I was a principal investigator for the evaluation, working alongside my colleagues Natalie Yates-Bolton and Una Thompson-Bradley.
Thanks very much, Julie. Delighted that you could join us today. And Breda, do you want to introduce yourself? I know that some people may recognise you as you were also part of our regional event in Forth Valley and are obviously one of our DFCs. So over to you, Breda, for an introduction.
I'm Breda Seaman, and I'm the project coordinator for Dementia Friendly Dunblane, and I was also very privileged to be part of the project advisory group for HammondCare.
Thanks very much, Breda, and thanks for joining us. And now over to Carol and Malcolm. Do you want to say hello and introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is Malcolm. I'm Carol's husband and full-time carer, and I'm a member of the St Andrew's Church in Carluke Dementia Hub.
Hi, my name is Carol, and as you know, I've got dementia, and I go to Carluke Dementia Group in St Andrews, who is run by Superwoman, as I call her. Morning, Helen.
Thank you, Carol, and good morning to Bruce as well. I can hear him in the background.
Hey.
So we've got the full squad here today, which is absolutely brilliant. Martin, would you like to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Martin. I have posterior cortical atrophy, a rare dementia, and I live way up north in Peterhead. I was part of the PAG.
Thanks, Martin. And last but by no means least, Agnes, can you say hello and introduce yourself to everyone today?
Hi everybody, I'm Agnes. I live in North Lanarkshire, not that far from Carluke, and I am an expert by experience, having lived and campaigned for over 15 years now on dementia and worked in the project advisory group with HammondCare closely. So it's been brilliant.
Thank you very much, Agnes. Thank you. Okay, so can we get started then? So Carol, I'm going to start with you. Given that you've been involved in a dementia-friendly community, can you tell us a wee bit about what it feels like to be part of St Andrew's Church? You said in your film earlier on, and I remember reading it in the report by HammondCare, that you felt that you were living again. So can you just tell us a wee bit about what it feels like to be part of St Andrew's?
It's absolutely wonderful. When I was told I had dementia, all I could think about was, oh my God, I'm dying. And do you know, it's the best thing that we've ever done is walked through the doors at Carluke Church. We were told about the group and Malcolm persuaded me to go, and I stood at the doors and I was like, oh my God, Malcolm, back, take me home. But somebody came and seen me and morning, and you coming in for a cup of coffee? And honestly, my life is absolutely full and happy. I go to dementia group. We've now got a walk and talk group where we go a walk and get out and get some fresh air. I go to Heart for Art. And well, my daughter says I should just take my sleeping bag to the church. But it's just totally changed my life. And I do feel as if I'm living now. And you feel as if you're part of a family. Yeah. And even yesterday at dementia group, I was asking one of the other people that goes, if he can read things now and take it in. And he said no. And it makes you feel so much better that you're not alone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I can speak to anybody at St Andrews about anything. I could tell them anything, ask them anything. And honestly, I'm living life to the full, and I can honestly say now, I can really die a happy woman because I have had a full and happy life, and I just laugh and smile all the time, and it's just totally changed my whole outlook.
Thank you, Carol. That's a fantastic and beautiful description of the impact of dementia-friendly communities for you, and how that continues and evolves and adapts and changes to your life and the life of Malcolm and the wider community. So the first question that's come in is from Helen, and it responds to that description by Lisa and Dawn, where it talks about the responsiveness of communities, and that it's not about that prescriptive approach, and is very much about the evolvement and adaptability of communities, and also that it's not about that medical model but that social model. So, you know, Helen's asking about how do we inform, you know, local and national government around that, because it's not about prescribing, it's about evolving and responding to change. So Julie, for you, what do you think? Coming out of the evaluation, there was a lot of talk and a lot of reflection around the impact for post-diagnostic support, the impact of how this could be considered going forward in terms of local commissioning work and development of strategies. So what do you think about that question in relation to what Helen's tried to describe?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very important and insightful question. This idea of immediate impact and what that means. So for us, it was really important to try and thread together all of the complex stories, because if you think about dementia-friendly communities, that sounds like the one set of things, but we know actually there are two distinct types, the geographical and the communities of interest. And then we know that they are all very different, they work in different areas, and that real richness, even under that umbrella title, has really come to the fore. So I think it's important that the social return on investment work can be married somehow to what's important to people with dementia, unpaid carers, and how we can demonstrate that that also meets the needs of Scottish Government, policymakers, integrated health and social care boards. So for me, I think the standout description is nurturing and influencing. And using social return on investment in the way we do, you can quite clearly link that to social bonding activities, but importantly, social bridging, and collectively their social capital. And it's social capital that makes communities stronger, responsive. They provide the safety net for people in need, and they provide a launch pad for people to be able to live, because if your safety needs are met, if you know there's somewhere, a trusted source, a reliable source to get the type of help and advice you want, it then allows you to start to enjoy life as a person with dementia, as a carer. So social return on investment allows us to evidence the added value, the finance attached to that.
Yeah.
And I think if we can do that, then you're demonstrating both added value and cost savings of doing things maybe over a longer term and in a different way. But what I would say is what we have produced with everybody's help is actually that evidence of this is the impact. And communities have been around since 2015. So, you know, we have 6 years of evidence to fall back on. It isn't something new.
Thanks, Julie. That's really helpful and really puts all of that into context in terms of what is useful, but what is important in terms of that evidence base. Because we know that health and social care and government will not just be looking at the stories behind that impact, but will also be looking at, you know, the added value, you know, the pounds and pence, let's be honest. So it's good to be able to have a broad range of evidence to be able to support that that move forward and look at that very intrinsic approach that dementia-friendly communities take and how integral they are in delivering dementia support across Scotland. So Martin, sorry, Julie.
It's also the reliability and the sustainability element. Yeah. So that must be where the story goes now, because you have to show that they have a permanency about them.
Absolutely, yeah, they're crucial. So Agnes and Martin, you both mentioned at the start of your introductions that you were part of the project advisory group for the evaluation. So can you maybe both just talk about your experience of that, what that was like, you know, how you were involved, and maybe just a bit of reflection. So who wants to start? Agnes?
For me, it's been such a long time ago that memory is quite vague. But what I do know is that I was enabled and helped to be a part of the advisory board. So when it was a bad, foggy day, people noticed and helped me through that. So it was understanding and that. So that was great. And pacing things so that taking time to read, because like Martin, my sensory challenges and my vision, etc., are affected by my dementia. So I can read, but it's in a different way and slower. And so yes, so it's been a learning experience for me to participate in it, you know, so really it was wonderful. I wanted just quickly to mention about the question beforehand.
Yeah.
I think for me, and I know that because I go about, you know, like everybody else in a lot of different ways, I will have the link with the help of my PA available to the reports. And I will be saying to a lot of the local governments and that, please read this report, because you are talking about there's no money due to COVID and the financial restraint. Well, if you want to save money, read this report, because it's showing you that for every pound that's invested, it equals to nearly £4 and £5 of social impact, etc. So they can't afford not to, you know. So it is based on a lot of research in that, because stories are all very well and it's important, but when you're sitting at these boards, they ain't interested in stories, and they'll say it's anecdotal and all the fancy words have got, but this report backs up and tells you that Malcolm and Callum's, the way it's changed your life, you know, is important, and it's backed up with all this research. So well done. Yeah, well done.
Thank you, Agnes. Martin, some of your reflections.
As always, I'm afraid I always think of something that's not right. I was wary when I was first asked, because community to me means a village, and so you got people within the community and people without.
Yeah.
So to me, dementia-friendly communities is a phrase that excludes.
Yeah.
And I think I'm reasonably well educated, so I'd have thought that most people in the country will think that, to be honest. But once I got involved, I understood what they're doing. But as I say, this is a major worry, that the public will think they're separate from the community. I used to live near one of these retirement villages, and they were very separate to the community. So that's where I'm coming from with that, from my own experience. But otherwise, well, the first meeting was held pre-COVID. I zoomed into that, but Natalie kept phoning us up during it, so we were always kept informed and everything, so that we were very heavily involved. But actually, I'm ahead of Agnes in that my partnership knows about the report and is waiting for it. And I've already told them that kind of the credit scores come out good, so they're already waiting for it.
Good.
Okay, can I come in there, Malcolm? That's where training comes in for the people like Carol and myself. How do we influence and get into the partnerships? And I know it's not for the discussion today, but we really need to have that link so that we can get into our partnerships and make them take notice of us, that we are not standalone people living with dementia, nobody, you know.
Yeah, but part of it. Sorry, Martin, on you go.
I'm afraid to say that was one of the issues I had with the whole life approach books. They just said, go to a partnership. They didn't detail how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to research the names and that. And we're now on first name terms and we got good communication going. I had to find out who it was and what the type of the person was. So I think that I do think that presumably A Scotland about dementia will now hopefully take that over.
Yeah. And I think what the dementia communities do, and this is illustrated in the support, is that, you know, they broaden out in terms of that influence and approach, so they can support members of that community to influence change locally or nationally, whatever they want to do. So it's about building those relationships and being part of something across that community. And I take your point, Martin, and I think we were very conscious of that at the Trust when we started to think about funding this work very early on back in 2015. And I wasn't there then, but I know from discussions and conversations when I joined the Trust, was that we were very conscious not to just talk about location when you were talking about community, that it was much broader than that. It was much more about people and about what connected those people, whether it was a place, whether it was an interest, whether it was an organisation. So that's how, when the funding was launched and opened in 2015, we were very clear that it was about not just geographical communities, but it was also about communities of interest. And you hear that from Lisa and Dawn when they describe, you know, how people evolve and how responsive they are and how they cross between different communities, how they're part of one big community, and how it isn't just about doing one particular thing at one particular time. It's just about how that person evolves and flourishes, and how that community wraps around to support them and enable them to do that. But you're absolutely right, Pat Martin, it's a point well made, and that was deliberate from the Trust not to just focus on location. So I'm going to move the conversation on a wee bit, if that's okay, and I'm going to ask a question of Breda, first of all, and as always, people can pitch in. So a question, Breda, is what would you say to people in your community who maybe want a quick and standard response to a request that they've made? So something that they want to do, they want it quick and very responsive to get things going, rather than give time for ideas and choices to develop. So how do you balance people that need immediate support and then balancing then the need to then kind of develop support moving forward in response to some ideas? So how do you balance that in a dementia-friendly community?
I think from experience, what we've learned in Dunblane is that there are no quick fixes. There is no just one way for a dementia-friendly community. And the people who attend your activities are all individuals. So part and parcel is really building the relationship, getting to know the people like Carol and Malcolm, getting to know the fear like Carol expressed of somebody stood at the door that wants to run, and having welcoming people in your community that have got the skills and the knowledge to open up and be warm and welcoming. There's no quick fixes in a dementia-friendly community. We're coming up now to 5 years working towards dementia-friendly, and people keep saying to me, well, when will you be dementia-friendly? And I says, when the people with dementia tell us. Yeah. It's not up to the community to say we're dementia friendly. It's up to the people and their carers to tell us that they find that living in our community makes them feel part of it and not a part. You know, they're engaged.
Thanks, Breda. That's really helpful. I think you're absolutely right in terms of, you know, it's about people with dementia and unpaid carers. It's about what they say community means to them. Carol, I think you used your hand up and I missed it. Did you want to add anything to the conversation?
I was just going to say that the South Lanarkshire Council are absolutely ridiculous, and they should hang their head in shame, because there's absolutely nothing in South Lanarkshire for people with early onset dementia. And I'd be quite happy to speak to people in the council to make them aware of how important it is for our life and our well-being. And I just think it's absolutely terrible. And there's, I can't remember what I was going to say, but I'd be quite happy to speak to the council, and I'd be quite happy to speak to anybody.
Good. Well, I think you're absolutely right, Carol, and I think that's where the real strength and the real power is, isn't it? You know, people with lived experience, talking to those people that make up the policies, develop the plans, decide on the rules, everything, because at the end of the day, it's you that's going to be impacted on that support, whether it's available or not available. So we'll be sure to be making sure this support is widely available, and I'm sure Helen will provide a bit of support if she can in relation to getting you to speak to some of these local people that are influencing some of that work across South Lanarkshire, because it is really, really important. So I'm going to move on a wee bit more again, and I'm going to maybe bring in Malcolm here, if that's okay, Malcolm.
Yeah.
So you and Carol talked to me a bit earlier about your experiences of being part of St Andrews, and Malcolm, you said since you joined, your circle of friends has grown tenfold. So can you talk a bit about that, and how important that is in amongst everything else that the community offers? Because as an unpaid carer, that'll be really important.
You find when a person with you has been diagnosed with dementia, that your friends just seem to drop off. You lose a lot of friends, and a lot of people are taboo about inviting you to things because your wife's got dementia. When we went to the church, we found these wonderful people that introduced us to other people in the same situation that I'm in. And it was just so great that I could speak to somebody on the same level, and they understood what I was going through as I understood what they were going through. And from that, as Carol said, she's got other projects, the Heart for Art, the walking group, going along to those as well. The care is made to feel just as welcome as a person is with dementia. And I think that's a very important point.
Yeah, thanks, Malcolm. That's really good. And it's really important to hear, you know, from an unpaid carers' point of view as well, because dementia-friendly communities are about the whole community and about people with dementia and about unpaid carers. So Martin, can I ask you something? Given that you're in a rural community, and you talk about that very often when we have our conversations, so what do you think about dementia-friendly communities having a role in delivering post-diagnostic support that Julie mentioned, and obviously I mentioned in the presentation earlier on, particularly for people in rural communities? What's your thoughts on that?
The particular problem with our rural community is Aberdeenshire folk are very into their kith and kin, and they're not really public about dementia and other illnesses. So we have to break that barrier down.
Yeah.
But I still want to look at setting up our mobile meeting centre that would go to the villages rather than have one central place, because Aberdeenshire's a huge shire.
Yeah.
So it'd be best to make it kind of same day each week at different places. However, the partnership person that was looking at that has left and it's gone on to the back burner.
Yeah.
So I'll have to keep chasing them about that. But that's how I would see us using it, having a mobile one. I think there's one in Wales that we were looking at as a model.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Martin. That's really helpful. Yeah, I think the mobile meeting centre concept is not here in Scotland yet, but I think absolutely it's something that needs to be explored. So I've just had a comment here that I'm going to pass on to Carol. Actually, we've got a counsellor on the call, Councillor Bell from Angus, and what she's saying, Carol, is as a counsellor, she'd really encourage you to connect with your local counsellors, especially the ones that maybe sit on your integrated joint board, and Helen can maybe help with that. But what Councillor Bell is saying is that she would give you her email and help you to connect up if you need to, so we can maybe help sort that out after the webinar, Carol, and hook you up to each other, and we'll make sure that we get you in front of South Lanarkshire Council and start to see some of those changes getting made. So thanks, Councillor Bell, that's really appreciated. Okay, so Breda, can you tell us about how Dementia Friendly Dunblane, for example, have been involved in changing attitudes towards dementia locally?
Yes, when we first set up in 2017, you know, I don't think we quite realised what we were taking on. We were quite ambitious, and as we learned more about dementia-friendly communities, we realised rapidly that we needed to have an intergenerational input, because if we started with the schools and the children, then those children would grow up then not having any fear or stigma associated with dementia. So we worked in partnership with the local Alzheimer's Scotland dementia advisor and delivered dementia awareness sessions in the 5 schools in the town. So then when we went on from that, we did massive presentations, awareness raising to all of the groups that we could think of that was in the town, like your Rotary, your Guild, your youth groups, the Guides, the Boys Brigade. So really our journey really has helped to grow this community awareness. And we can see now that we're reaping the benefits of all that hard work. So I think that in building your dementia-friendly community, you have to start somewhere. And I think the awareness raising is one of the most important parts. So people know that you're not setting up a separate dementia club. Because some of the evidence is that, you know, if a partner dies, then the other person can't come, but they've been part of your family for perhaps 3-4 years. So we still have people come back who cared for their loved ones, and they loved coming, and they have transferred their skills into, you know, helping as volunteers in the cafe.
Great, thanks, Breda. That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So can we move back to the evaluation? And I want to maybe ask Agnes and also Julie, did anything about the findings from the evaluation, so what you had learned and what you had researched, surprise you? Was there anything that was, oh, didn't quite think about that, or that's something new? So who wants to start?
Julie, can you start first, please?
I was going to say, Agnes, please you start. You and I do this all the time, don't we, when we get together? But well, for me, I suppose when there were a few considerations when we started. So one was a respect and acknowledgement for how big the community of the DFCs was as a whole. A very high regard for the fact everybody had been very involved in self-evaluations, you know, so people were busy, and we didn't even know COVID was on the horizon when we started. So we knew that it had to be a robust evaluation because we expected to hear a lot of really lovely stories, but we knew it had to be more than that. But for all the reasons we've already spoken about, it's about the story of impact. So it's how these stories collectively create change and have impact. So we found ourselves on a journey in the middle of the report and in the middle of COVID, where, for example, we had the programme advisory group, and Breda, for example, was leaving early because she was delivering meals to people who couldn't get out. So we actually lived the community even as we were evaluating it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But refocusing back to business, we just felt it was really important to have the dementia-friendly communities model. And so all the discussions that are happening just now about how can we use this, you can actually use that 3-point diagram to hang a lot of facts on to then talk to someone. So for example, the living system will have all the stuff on it that Carol has said about somewhere to go, you know, not feeling silly, enjoying myself, finding I'm good at something, having someone to talk to, all the things you've already said. Why is that not more available or accessible? The living system could have, actually, we have a committee, you know, we go out and search for people that we haven't been able to reach yet. We're respectful that there might be other groups doing good work, and we try and find out what that is. We have a great relationship with our community mental health teams, and we deliver post-diagnostic support with statutory services, and then evolving, but we have plans for the future. We've noticed that we don't have XYZ. We know we're going to need funding for XYZ. We need XYZ person to help us. So you can use that model very simply to show what's important, what you're doing, what you want to do, and who can help you get there.
Thanks, Julie. That's really helpful. Agnes, Martin, you're going to come in as well, but I'll ask Agnes first. Any surprises for you, Agnes?
I think it was, because I think what surprised me was a lot of the dementia-friendly communities and projects were saying the same things. but using maybe different words. And with sitting down and concentrating and building the blocks to make the report, it made you see it clearly and then make it more straightforward so you could take it to your counsellors and that and speak their speak. You know, to get it in your community. I live in North Lanarkshire, Carol, and I hope all the councillors are holding and bowing their head in shame, you know, but they won't be shortly, because I'm using this report, and with the help of Joanna and my PA, I forget her name, who's just come in through the door, I'll sit down and I'll build my own local blocks so that I can speak their speak and use what Brenda has done, art for art, and let them see that, yes, there's very little money now, but I can show you how to make your pound go further and get a good outcome. It's just going to take my brain, which has got dementia, a long time to get to the stage, you know, where I want to be. But, you know, I do get there in the end. And then once I go to their meetings, I hope, like Martin, to be calling them on first names. I've got the first person in my head, MSP Fulton McGregor, who's helping me deal, because not only have I got dementia, but during COVID, I had to step up and be the carer for my husband with dementia. And if you think living with dementia is hard, and if you think being a carer is hard, try putting the two hats on at the one time. Hence why I've got a different jumper on this morning, because we spilled coffee over it.
we want to mention that. That was to say what happens in the rehearsal stays in the rehearsal, Agnes.
Okay.
But thank you very much. That is so important, and really good to see that, you know, we're gearing people up to really get out there and make change happen locally. Martin, you were going to come in as well.
Some people will laugh at my next phrase. As an ex-bureaucrat, I was worried that it'd all be just stories, because they don't care about personal stories. They care about the pounds, shillings and pence. And so the actual fact that the social credit is down there in pounds, shillings and pence is absolutely vital. The stories are not irrelevant, but they're not. The council officials don't want to know about that. They want the money. They want to know how they can save money. And that's where the report is so important and vital. And I was very pleasantly surprised to see it was in there.
Yeah. And we know already that one or two of the communities have already used that social return on investment to change things in their own community in terms of commissioning and planning work. So it'll be good to see that being scaled up and that happening across Scotland and not just for one or two unique communities. Okay, well, it's now time to bring this Q&A to a close. I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for joining us and for answering the questions. We really appreciate you taking the time because I know that you're busy people and you've got a lot on your plate. It's really a pleasure to have you with us today, and I'm now going to say goodbye and thank you. Bye, everyone. Okay, so we're now coming to the end of today's webinar. If you just bear with me, I've just got a few more things that I want to say before we close. It's been a fantastic event, and I hope you've all enjoyed it as much as I have today chairing it. There are so many things to say about our journey with dementia-friendly communities here at the Trust. I wasn't here at the Trust back in 2015 when the DFC programme first started and funding went out, but I know from hearing from many others, part of the Trust, how important the first phase was in setting the standard of what we wanted to achieve and build upon. We then welcomed many more projects in phase 2, and as part of the DFC development funding that I mentioned, created a network that we are celebrating today. In the report, people with dementia describe dementia-friendly communities as being part of a family, and to us here at the Trust, they are part of our family. We have been here at their birth, took them through their years of learning and standing on their own 2 feet, with a few tumbles along the way, and then witnessed them reaching their potential, building new relationships and becoming truly independent. I wish my teenagers here at home were as easy to work with at times, I can assure you. But in all honesty, they have been a real pleasure to work with and to get to know, and it has been a real honour for us here at the Trust to see them flourish and achieve so much now, and we know will continue well into the future. They're a strong force for change and have surpassed all of our expectations here at the Trust. I also want to pay tribute to the staff at the Trust, both past and present, who have been involved in many different ways with the Dementia Friendly Communities programme. The sheer size of this funding makes it the single biggest investment in one area of the work for the Dementia programme, and the longest running too at the Trust, which in turn translates into many years of hard work and dedication from lots of people behind the scenes. I heard someone recently commenting about how valuable the support provided by Trust staff has been, and how passionate and interested staff are in the work they do with projects. And so it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge this too, and to say thank you. It has been a pleasure to chair this event, which I believe is number 19 so far for the Trust with our online events. I can hear Deborah, our comms director, and HCVA for tech support sigh with relief. They do an amazing job as always. And so all I ask of you today is that you take away the learning we have shared and use it to influence change now and in the future. This is the start of new conversations and time to reinforce the role that communities play in the lives of people with dementia and unpaid carers. They are not simply an addition, but an integral part in how we realise future dementia policy and practice across Scotland and beyond. I would like to thank all of our speakers today, our panel of experts, and a huge thank you to all of our dementia-friendly communities who gave their time to make the evaluation and this event possible. We will, as I said earlier, email everyone with a link to the recording of this webinar in a few days, and you'll also see it on our social media channels too. And finally, a huge thanks to you all today for joining our webinar, and I'll now say goodbye. Thanks.